Hello, welcome to this next lesson on GCSE Sociology on the questions on education on paper 1 and specifically looking at the questions on the 12-mark questions that you've got to get. A little bit about myself. My name is Brian Dickinson. I'm a history teacher and sociology teacher down in West Sussex. I've been teaching for a very long time now, and I've been an examiner for about 20 years and the lead examiner for the last year or two. So I know my way around the exam papers quite well. And so we're going to look at the sort of things that you look out for when you're studying your GCSE sociology, especially the 12 markers, which are quite important. I'm just going to share my screen with you so that I can show you right. So 12 markers. You have to answer all 12-mark questions, okay, on the paper, and there are 4 of them on each paper, okay. So the 12-mark questions account for 48% of your total grade. So please make sure that you treat them, you take a lot of time over these as well. 12-mark questions are looking at how well you understand the main theories on each topic. So it gives you a chance of going into quite a lot of depth. Up until the 12 markers, the highest mark you're going to get on any question is 4. So it's a big jump between 4 and then 12. So it gives you a chance of going into more detail. You need to show you understand the main theory and its limitations or use, or with use of other theories. So in other words, what's good about a particular theory, how does it fit with explaining something, and maybe the limitations or how other theories may be slightly better. Each 12 marker starts with how far sociologists agree. Sociologists don't agree. Okay, there's a fundamental thing is that they never agree on anything, which is quite annoying for people who are scientists. I was saying, well, which is the correct theory? There isn't one. It's what you think and why you might think it. So don't worry about the fact that they don't agree. That's the whole point of it. To get over 6 points, over half, you need to show you understand alternative theories. So if you only look at one theory like Marxism or feminism, then you probably won't get more than 6, and this is absolutely brilliant. To get over 10 points, you must come up with your own judgment on how far do sociologists agree. In other words, you need to explain whether most sociologists agree with a statement or just some or not many, or not very many at all, and why that is. To get over 10, you must also say why sociologists disagree with a statement. This is usually because they adhere to a different theory, such as Marxism or feminism. Okay, so that's why you've got to look at, you've got to really know the difference between Marxism, feminism, and functionalism, and maybe interactionism to a lesser extent. But you do need to know there. If you want to contact me for any more details on how to do this, my website's at the bottom of the page there, or contact me through Satchel as well. So I was going to have a now look at an exam paper. This is last year's exam paper, which I want to go through. So this is a 12 marker. How far do sociologists agree that a student's social class is the main factor affecting their education? Okay, so now last year, most students did this particularly well. They actually got on quite well with this one. And it was mainly a comparison between working class and middle class students. Okay, so it's mainly who would say that, which type of sociologist would say that the main difference in is your social class. It's going to be Marxist theory. Okay, and you might look at Bowles and Gintis in particular on this one. And to some of the theories that you're going to come out with would be things like correspondence principle. The fact that school corresponds to what going to work is like. In other words, work is divided up. You have bosses, you have people in charge of you. Most of you don't have much control over your work, and it's boring. Okay, a bit like going to work. And then you might actually counter this and say, but however, there are other theories that say that social class isn't the main thing, and that education is fair and open. So most functionists would say that it's down to effort and motivation as an alternative. Okay, and that in fact, what education is really good at It's not your social class. It's actually very good at role allocation. So the brightest students get the better jobs. The less bright students get the jobs like, you know, stacking shelves in Tesco's and that type of thing. Okay. You might also say that class, some people don't always think that class is that important, that your gender is very important. So for example, feminists would say that gender is very important, as you know. Don't get caught up in thinking or arguing that girls don't do so well as boys, okay? But because they do better than boys. But it's a socialization, okay? So girls might be not forced, but encouraged to do certain roles in schools or in lessons. Okay, so don't think that the education failing girls, it doesn't. You could look at, actually, because of not so much class, but looking at the gender roles, that the girls have started to do really well. That feminism have pushed the gender roles in society and in education in specifically, and because there's been social changes, that girls have done really well. So therefore, it's not your class. Actually, your gender is really important. And across the classes, girls have outplaced boys. So in every school, almost, mixed schools, that is, in every aspect, whether it's a state school, grammar school, whether it's a fee-paying school or academy or free school, girls do better than boys. So you could argue that class to class isn't so good. Then you might also, you know, look at why that is. You know, things like the feminisation of the curriculum, bedroom culture for girls, the crisis of masculinity for boys, the fact that there's not so many typical boys subjects at school. The curriculum is quite centred around towards girls, and the fact that there's very few old traditional sort of type of male-only jobs anymore. So you might go along those routes as well. Okay, so there's quite a lot that you could get your teeth into, and hopefully at the end you would come up with saying that actually most sociologists, especially if they are Marxists, would agree that social class is very, very, very important, and why that is. Why is social class important? And the fact that if you are well off, if you are of a higher social class, you're more likely to be able to afford material things like tutors, doing this type of work as well. This costs your parents money. Some people who are on benefits or don't have a lot of money may not be able to afford to do that. Do not assume, though, please, that working class people are all poor. And that's quite a sweeping statement. And examiners don't like to see that. They say, oh, if you're working class, you can't afford these things. You can. You're just less likely to. Okay. Some working class students do go to fee-paying schools. They manage to get in. They manage to be able to afford it, or they get bursaries and things like that. So it can work. So don't try and avoid making really sweeping statements when you're doing these types of questions. The next question, as you can see, it's 3 pages of writing. So that's what you're expected to write. Discuss how far sociologists would agree that the education system prepares students for the capitalist society. So what this is looking at really, it's the capitalist society. It's not, repeat, not saying preparing you to go to work. It's not saying how well does it prepare you to go to work. Some students, I remember a couple of years ago, fell foul of this one, and they didn't quite, they read up to prepare students. Oh yeah, I know about this one, and they rush off and didn't read the last 2 words. It's a common mistake. People under pressure in exams don't always read the question very, very clearly. So really, please make sure that you answer, you read the full question. Okay. So you look at the correspondence principle, Willie's study of boys as well, maybe the fact that how some boys, low ability boys may find school unappealing and not really interested in what they have to, what they like, therefore they drop out as well. And you might challenge this view that school's meant to be based on merit, and it's not really, or is it? Even as a teacher, we are told, I tell students that if you put in lots of work and lots of hard work, you'll get a better grade. The better students get better grades. Not always the case, is it? Really, some students who are quite well connected, very well off, can afford tutors and things like that, tend to do better. Okay, you might want to argue also, like the last one, that it does prepare you very well for a capitalist society, because it allocates you in your roles. So the academic students will go towards an academic career. They become a doctor and things like that, whereas the less academic might end up being a car mechanic or a builder, that type of thing. You might also look at maybe looking at the idea that society and education is quite gendered, and the idea that feminists look at how the curriculum is quite gendered towards boys to a certain extent as well, and how that's changed over the years, okay, and how it's got better. So therefore it's it mirrors what social capitalist society is like, that we need more women in the world, we need more women in roles and in jobs and in careers. So therefore schools have kind of followed along from that as well. And the fact that because we need more women and more people generally in engineering and in those technical subjects, that schools have kind of gone along for that as well. But also how girls don't always go down the route of looking at those types of roles in terms of looking at what I call it, careers in engineering or construction, where they are quite needed. Okay, so I would look at really on this one, think about the socialists disagree with the capitalist system. I think that does it really prepare you for going out to work and working in a role for the rest of your life, or whether or not schools really do prepare you for everything that you're going to need to do when you leave school. Okay, so I'm looking at one there. So on this particular question, please make sure that when you do look at this one, that you really do look at the question very, very well. You look at all of the whole of the question. I was looking at my notes here, and I've lost some of my notes. Beg your pardon. Bear with me for a few minutes. Oh yeah. Oh, beg your pardon. Yes, I did look at my right notes. Analysis and evaluation of significance of internal factors. So, what goes on in schools. So what examiners are looking for, not just what goes on outside of schools, but what also goes on in schools as well. Okay. So maybe if you're going to a school which is rigid in terms of extreme in a setting, that doesn't always prepare you really for the change in things, which is going to, in when you go out to work. So you might also look at things, how some better off students tend to do better at school, which doesn't really doesn't prepare some people for capitalist society that well, or doesn't prepare people who are low ability. Okay, so just because some people are prepared for the very academic and do very well in school, doesn't necessarily follow that they're going to be particularly good at being leaders or being people who are going to be very good doctors or accountants and things like that. Looking at statistical data as well, and ethnicity, and how ethnicity prepares people or doesn't prepare people for going to work and the capitalist system. So this particular question did throw quite a lot of people, and a lot of people didn't really do particularly well on this one about a year ago. Okay, some students considered feminist views, and I look at this and the continuation of patriarchy, and how the patriarchy in society is mirrored in a gendered curriculum as well. And you might look at, but also looking at the changes in the genders curriculum and looking at Sue Sharp's work and how girls have changed their outlook on life. And others refer to STEM, like science, technology, and engineering, and some subject choices, gender selection of subjects, reflecting the continuation of gender stereotypes in the workplace. So, one thing that schools have been trying to do is encourage girls to get into things like that, technology and engineering, and yet they haven't, because it's capitalist society. Still pushes, not pushes, but encourages girls to go down a particular route in life. Now, one thing that lots of my students really struggled with last year was timing. And they found, and I found this as an examiner, that when I got to the 12 markers, especially towards the end of each paper, this is the last one on paper one, lots of people either didn't answer it or only answered half of it. And that was on both papers as well. So what I found they were doing was running out of time. And in fact, the leading examiner mentions that in his report as well, saying that lots of students seem to be running out of time. Please keep an eye on the clock. You should be looking at a point per minute. Okay, so therefore the earlier questions, you should really be kind of getting them done quickly so you can spend more time on the 12 markers. What I would suggest you do, if you are looking at getting over grade 6, maybe a 6, 7 or 8, or even definitely a 9, if you are going to be getting those sort of subjects, those sort of grades, I would suggest that you do the 12 markers first. Get them out of the way, and then you can, because they're going to count for nearly half your marks. So if you could get over 10, or you get 10 points on each of those 4 12 markers on each paper, that's 40% of your grade already. And 40%, just on 40%, you're probably looking at a grade 4, okay, or even a 3 or 4. Bordering on 3 or 4. So therefore you can pick up other points by doing the smaller questions in. But don't spend too much time. So make sure you spend just 12 minutes on each one. Look at the clock, right, and spend 12 minutes on each question, on each of the 12 markers, and then go and do the smaller ones. Okay, but keep an eye on the time. It's crucial you keep an eye on the time. Also, one thing I would do, and I used to see a lot of this when we used to see exam questions, papers sent to us, was please, highlight some of the key words. So on this particular one, you should have highlighted education system, capitalist society. Okay, so therefore, and it gives you an idea of, you don't miss out certain words, you make sure you understand the question, are you tackling the question? On the other 12 marker, so you would look at student social class, educational achievement. So it focuses you on the question. There's nothing wrong with also making a little plan of things that you want to say, little bullet points you want to say. Okay, it doesn't mean that just leave it at bullet points, but it's very, very easy to look at this, and the boys do this more than girls. They rush into a question and they go, oh, look, yes, I know that. And they start writing. And then when they finish, they forget they've mentioned something. Make a few bullet points of what you want to say. So therefore, you're more likely to then, you can tick them off as you go, right, I've said that. And, so therefore you're not going to get caught up in the rushing of trying to answer questions. I would also say practice at these 12 markers. Sit at home, you can get them on AQA website. They're readily available. Some of your teachers might have them, or if you email me, I will send you some, and get your teachers to mark them, have a look at them, see what you're doing. I'll quite happily help you as well if you want to email them to me, Brian at myowntutor-crawley.co.uk, and I will help you answer those as well. Anyway, that's enough for today. Hope you've enjoyed that, and give you some tips and help you with your GCSEs. Good luck with your GCSEs whenever you get to do them. Hope you get to do them this year. If you need any help, please contact me, either brian@myowntutor-crawley.co.uk or via Satchel, and I'll help you if I can. Nice to see you again. Goodbye.